The operator could barely hear her, not because of the gunshots, but because she was crying, hyperventilating, repeating the same sentence. "He made me do it," over and over and over. When police arrived, they found him face down, 12 bullet wounds, 6 in the chest, 4 in the back, 2 in the arm. The gun was still warm, and the woman sitting on the floor didn't try to run, didn't deny it. She just whispered, "He humiliated me." Subscribe to this channel. Let's see how this chilling true crime story ends. Her name was Danielle Moore, 32 years old. Instagram perfect. The kind of woman strangers assumed had an easy life. Designer bags, luxury vacations, a body people stared at, especially after the surgery. The BBL changed everything, at least on the outside. Before the surgery, she was invisible. After it, men stared, women whispered, and her husband, he stopped touching her. Danielle met Marcus Moore when she was 25. He was older, stable, a software engineer, quiet, reserved, the opposite of flashy. Their relationship moved fast. Engagement in 8 months, marriage in a year. At first, it was calm, predictable, safe. But Danielle wanted more attention, more validation, more desire. She started talking about surgery. Marcus hated the idea, not because of money, but because of risk. Because he said, "You're already enough." Danielle heard something else. "You're not desirable." She booked the surgery without telling him. Miami, discount clinic, cash payment, no insurance. Marcus found out 3 days before the flight. They argued. He begged her not to go. She went anyway. That trip changed everything. The procedure lasted longer than expected. She lost more blood than expected. She woke up in pain, but she was told that was normal. Swelling, fluid, drainage, all normal, except the smell started 2 weeks later. Subtle at first, then stronger, metallic, rotten. Danielle panicked. The clinic stopped responding. Her local doctor referred her to a specialist. Diagnosis, post-surgical infection. Severe, deep tissue. They prescribed antibiotics. Then stronger ones, then hospital admission. But the damage was already done. Marcus noticed first. He didn't say anything. At first, he opened windows, bought candles, changed sheets daily. But the smell followed Danielle. Room to room, car to car. It wasn't hygiene. It wasn't neglect. It was internal, and it wasn't going away. Danielle cried in the shower, scrubbed until her skin burned. Nothing worked. Marcus stopped sleeping in the same bed. Then stopped coming home early. Then stopped coming home at all. When Danielle confronted him, he said it, out loud. "It smells." Those 2 words shattered her. She begged him to be patient. Doctors were working on it. She needed time. Marcus said something worse. "I can't live like this." Marcus filed for divorce quietly. No drama, no public fights. But word got out. Friends whispered. Family asked questions. Danielle felt exposed, like her body betrayed her, like her surgery marked her. Marcus moved out. Danielle stayed alone in the house, with mirrors, with silence, with shame. The infection didn't just affect her body. It affected her mind. Sleep deprivation, chronic pain, medication side effects, depression. Doctors documented it. Mood instability, paranoia, obsessive thoughts. Danielle started believing Marcus wasn't just leaving her. She believed he was mocking her. She believed he told people. She believed he ruined her on purpose. There was no proof, but belief doesn't need proof. Marcus tried to stay civil. He texted about paperwork, about selling the house, about mediation. Danielle replied erratically, sometimes loving, sometimes hostile, sometimes begging, sometimes threatening. Marcus saved everything, just in case. Marcus came to the house to collect documents. He brought a friend. He said he didn't feel safe. Danielle was home, alone. When she saw his car, something snapped. Not rage. Something colder, quieter. She waited until the friend left. Then she locked the door. Neighbors heard shouting, Danielle screaming, Marcus trying to stay calm. Then silence, then gunshots. 1, 2, 3, then more. Police counted 12. Danielle didn't resist. She handed them the gun, sat on the floor, rocking, repeating one sentence. He said I disgust him. The headlines were brutal. Woman kills husband over botched, BBL. Divorce over surgery ends in murder. Comment sections exploded. People mocked her, reduced her to a punchline. But investigators saw something else. Marcus was shot twice in the back, meaning he was walking away, or trying to. That mattered. But what mattered more was what they found on his phone. Marcus wasn't just divorcing her, he was preparing to sue the clinic in Danielle's name. He had contacted lawyers, collected medical records, documented everything. He was trying to help her, without telling her. The night he died, Marcus had drafted a message, unsent. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm trying to fix this. Danielle never saw it. Toxicology came back. Danielle was on. Strong antibiotics, painkillers, anti-anxiety meds, sleep medication, at dangerous interaction levels. Doctors warned, psychotic breaks possible. Was this murder or a medical disaster that spiraled? Did Danielle plan this? Or did her mind collapse under pain, shame, and isolation? The jury would decide. But the prosecution wasn't done, because they found something else. Something disturbing. Something hidden in Marcus's laptop. Detectives opened a folder. Inside were photos, time-stamped, recent, of Danielle, asleep, unaware, taken weeks before the shooting. And one line in Marcus's notes, I think someone else is making her worse. Detectives stared at Marcus Moore's laptop, not because of what was on it, but because of how long it had been there. The folder was labeled simply Danielle. Inside were medical records, doctor notes, photos of surgical wounds, medication schedules, text screenshots, voice memos. Marcus hadn't just been preparing a lawsuit. He had been documenting a decline, slow, methodical, terrifying. There were audio files, Marcus's voice, quiet, controlled, like someone afraid of being overheard. She doesn't sleep anymore. She keeps saying someone's watching her. She smells it even when it's not there. That last line made detectives pause. Because the infection, by medical reports, had already cleared. Hospital records confirmed it. 3 weeks before the shooting, cultures negative, no necrosis, no active infection. Doctors cleared Danielle physically, but she kept insisting the smell was still there. She said it followed her. She said people were lying. She said Marcus was pretending it was gone to make her crazy. That's when one doctor wrote a single word in her chart: olfactory hallucinations. Danielle's lawyers leaned into it. Hard. They argued the infection triggered a neurological reaction, medication interactions, trauma, post-surgical psychosis. Her mind never came back online. But the prosecution wasn't convinced. Because psychosis doesn't explain planning. The gun wasn't in the house. Danielle bought it 2 days before the shooting. Cash. Background check clean. Security footage showed her calm, focused, not shaking, not crying. She knew what she was doing. At least on the outside. Remember the friend Marcus brought? His name was Eric. He left 10 minutes before the shooting. Eric told police something strange. Danielle hugged him goodbye, smiled, then whispered something in his ear. Eric couldn't hear it clearly, but he caught one word. Tonight. A neighbor reported hearing Danielle say something during the argument. Not screaming, not crying. Clear. Cold. If you leave me like this, I'll make sure you never leave again. That sentence changed the case. The medical examiner reviewed Marcus's wounds again. 12 shots. Yes. But more importantly, the order. The first shot hit his shoulder. Non-lethal. The next two hit his torso, then a pause, then more shots. That pause mattered. It suggested decision-making, not panic. The defense subpoenaed the Miami clinic. The surgeon? Unreachable. License suspended. The clinic? Closed. Vanished. But one name kept appearing in paperwork. A consulting physician. Not a surgeon, not a nurse. A post-op recovery specialist. His name didn't exist in any database. Investigators found drafts, unsent emails, to Danielle, to lawyers, to regulators. One stood out. I think someone convinced her the smell means she's rotting. That sentence made detectives uncomfortable, because that idea didn't come from nowhere. Danielle was in an online group, private, encrypted. Women who had BBLs, women who had complications, women who were scared. At least that's how it started. Then the tone changed. Messages about doctors lying, about husbands leaving, about being damaged, and one account kept posting, over and over. Rebirth told women their bodies were rejecting them. That smell meant decay, that men would leave, that doctors were gaslighting them. That rage was justified, that betrayal deserved consequences. Rebirth messaged Danielle daily, sometimes hourly. For months, IP addresses led nowhere, VPNs burner devices, but one thing stood out. Rebirth always went quiet. When Danielle was hospitalized and came back online when Marcus was home. Danielle received one last message, timestamped 11:43 p.m. You don't smell because you're sick. You smell because he wants you to. And tomorrow, he'll leave you forever. Court-appointed psychiatrists interviewed Danielle. She remembered shooting Marcus, but her explanation was fractured. She said she needed silence. She said the smell got louder when he spoke. She said the gun was the only thing that stopped it. One doctor wrote, she perceived the victim as a trigger, not a person. The prosecution argued motive, humiliation, divorce, loss of status. They said the mental illness defense was convenient. They said Danielle wanted control. They said she executed him. Forensics found something odd. Danielle fired 13 rounds, but only 12 hit Marcus. The 13th was fired into the wall before any shot hit him. A warning shot. Why warn someone you're about to kill? Eric returned with new information. He admitted something he'd been afraid to say. Danielle told him, if he leaves, I won't survive what comes next. Eric thought she meant suicide. Now he wasn't so sure. Journalists dug into the Miami clinic. 3 deaths, 7 lawsuits, dozens of complaints. All settlements, all sealed, and in 2 cases. The women involved had violent breakdowns afterward. One attacked her partner, another disappeared. The defense presented it, not as conspiracy, as negligence. The surgery didn't just damage tissue, it damaged identity. Danielle lost control over her body, then her marriage, then her sense of reality, and someone exploited that. Jurors stopped taking notes. Some avoided looking at Danielle, others couldn't stop staring. This wasn't a simple monster story. This was something messier, something scarier. The prosecution dropped their bomb. They identified Rebirth, a real person, a former patient, who blamed Marcus, not Danielle, for everything, because Marcus had posted a warning comment years earlier on a forum calling out unsafe BBL clinics. Rebirth saw it and targeted his wife. As court adjourned, Danielle leaned toward her attorney and whispered something. The attorney froze, turned pale, and requested an emergency recess because Danielle had just said, Rebirth isn't a woman. He's watching right now. She said he, the attorney whispered. Not she, not they, he. The judge called for silence. Danielle sat still, hands folded, eyes fixed on the jury, like she already knew something no one else did. Cybercrime pulled the logs, what little there was, timestamps, typing cadence, language patterns. Rebirth didn't type like a woman. Didn't write like one either. Short sentences, directive language, command-driven. It wasn't support. It was conditioning. Male, late 30s to early 40s, medical adjacent, not a doctor, but someone who knew enough to sound like one. Someone who understood shame and how to weaponize it. The name surfaced quietly. Dr. Alan Price, former pharmaceutical rep. Later, consultant for post-op recovery clinics, including the one in Miami, including others with similar lawsuits. Price never touched a scalpel. He touched minds. Marcus Moore had posted online, years earlier, a warning about unsafe BBL clinics, about infection risks, about women being dismissed. His post went viral. It cost clinics money. Price never forgot. Rebirth didn't tell Danielle to kill, not directly. He told her she was decaying, that Marcus was disgusted, that men always leave damaged women, that doctors lie, that rage is clarity. Day after day, message after message, until Danielle couldn't tell where her thoughts ended, and rebirth began. Psychiatrists testified. Danielle's medication cocktail? Dangerous. Antibiotics that crossed the blood-brain barrier. Painkillers that distorted perception. Anti-anxiety meds that lowered inhibition. Sleep meds that blurred reality. Together, a perfect storm. Danielle reported phantom smells, paranoia, intrusive thoughts. Doctors adjusted doses, but never pulled her offline. Never asked who she was talking to. Never checked the forums. The final rebirth message wasn't long. It didn't need to be. He's already gone. You're just catching up. That message arrived an hour before Marcus did. Danielle bought the gun calm. Yes, but the footage showed something else too. She kept sniffing the air. Over and over, like she was chasing something only she could smell. The warning shot. The prosecution called it intimidation. The defense called it hesitation. Psychiatrists called it ambivalence. A mind splitting in real time. Danielle described it in court. The room shrinking, Marcus's voice distorting, the smell getting louder, not physical, psychological. She said she didn't see Marcus anymore. She saw the thing causing the smell. As the trial heated up, Alan Price disappeared. Phone dead. Apartment empty. Bank accounts untouched. No goodbye. No forwarding address. Just gone. In his storage unit, investigators found burner phones, clinic contracts, forum login credentials, including rebirth, and one document labeled Behavioral Escalation Timeline. Danielle's name was highlighted. Price didn't just manipulate Danielle. He monitored her, tracked her hospital visits, adjusted his messages based on her meds, pushed harder when she was weakest. He wasn't trolling. He was experimenting. Jurors cried. Some looked angry, not at Danielle, at the system, at the clinics, at the man who vanished. This wasn't a jealous wife story anymore. This was psychological homicide. They admitted Price's influence, but argued one thing. Danielle still pulled the trigger. 12 times. Influence wasn't innocence. She stood, voice quiet, not dramatic. I didn't want him dead, she said. I wanted the smell to stop. The courtroom froze. 3 days, no leaks, no signals, no verdict. Danielle waited, expression blank, like someone already sentenced. On the 4th morning, before the jury returned, Danielle's attorney received a text, unknown number, 1 sentence. She was my best result. Attached. A photo, taken from inside the courtroom, from behind the jury box. The attorney didn't show the photo to anyone at first. He stared at it, zoomed in. The angle was wrong, too low, too close. Whoever took it wasn't a juror, wasn't press, wasn't court staff. The shot came from a blind spot, one only someone familiar with the courtroom would know. Court security reviewed the cameras. Nothing, no suspicious movement, no unknown faces, but one camera glitched for 37 seconds. During jury entry, the same number that kept showing up in the case, 37. No one could explain it. Danielle stood as the jurors filed in, hands shaking, face pale. The foreperson cleared her throat. The room held its breath. "We find the defendant," a pause, "guilty of voluntary manslaughter. Not murder, not innocence. A split verdict, a split reality." Danielle collapsed into her chair. She wasn't free, but she wasn't buried. The court acknowledged influence, psychological manipulation, medical failure, but still held her responsible. Sentencing was set, months away, enough time for something else to happen. As court adjourned, a folded paper was found under Danielle's seat. No fingerprints, no ink bleed. One sentence. "You were supposed to finish him?" Danielle didn't scream. She nodded, like she understood. Alan Price wasn't missing. He was embedded. He had consulted for a security subcontractor, one that handled courthouse surveillance upgrades, temporary access, temporary badges, permanent damage. He didn't need to be in the jury. He needed to be near it. Investigators pieced it together. Danielle wasn't the end goal. She was proof of concept. If you could push a stable person into irreversible violence without ever touching them, you could do it again, and again, and again. Price kept a list, recovered from a cloud server he forgot to wipe. 43 names. Women, men, post-surgical, post-trauma, post-shame. Some labeled inactive, some labeled escalating, one labeled successful. Danielle Moore. Danielle addressed the court. No theatrics, no tears. "I don't remember pulling the trigger," she said, "but I remember believing the world would be quiet after." The judge didn't look up. Sentence: 18 years, with possibility of parole. The smell followed her, not physically, mentally, at night, in dreams, in whispers from other cells. Danielle started journaling. Doctors monitored her closely. She improved, stabilized, but something else started happening. She received letters. No return address, no threats, just observations. "You're adjusting well. You're responding better than expected. You're still interesting." Prison intercepted some, not all. 6 months later, another woman. Different state, different surgery. Same forums, same language. Her partner survived. Barely. He said she kept repeating one phrase. "I just want it to stop." The lead prosecutor watched the news coverage. He recognized the pattern immediately. Same escalation curve, same emotional hooks, same online manipulation. Danielle wasn't unique. She was first. This time, not digitally. A voice message, left on a prison counseling line, distorted, familiar. "You did exactly what I needed," the voice said. "You showed me the limit." Danielle understood then. He wasn't chasing violence. He was chasing control thresholds. How far someone could be pushed. How quickly. Under what conditions. She was a data point. So was Marcus. A public defender received a call. Anonymous. An offer. Information. In exchange for access. One monitored conversation. With Danielle. They said it could stop future attacks. They didn't say how many had already happened. Danielle agreed. Not to save herself, but because she knew how he thought. Because she knew the smell. Because she knew the voice. She knew he wouldn't stop. Unless someone stepped into the loop. The call lasted 4 minutes. Price didn't taunt her, didn't threaten. He praised her. "You exceeded projections," he said. Then he said something worse. You're not my only success. After the call ended, federal agents opened a new case file, titled Project Rebirth. Under status, one word, active, and below it, a list that was longer than before. The agents knew the rule. You don't use inmates as bait, not officially, not on paper. But Project Rebirth wasn't official. It was a containment effort, and containment had already failed. Danielle didn't need to pretend. She didn't need a script. Price already believed in her, believed he had shaped her, believed she was proof. That made her dangerous and valuable. Danielle agreed on 3 terms. No promises of early release, no lies about safety, and one thing in writing: if I stop cooperating, you stop listening. The agents signed. They shouldn't have. Danielle sent one sentence through a monitored channel. You said I exceeded projections. Within minutes, the reply came. Because you listened. That was his tell. Price didn't command. He cultivated obedience. Price believed shame was louder than fear. That humiliation rewired identity. That once a person believed they were broken, they would do anything to feel whole again. He didn't invent the method. He refined it. Price began talking, not like a criminal, like a researcher. He discussed variables, medication, isolation, social rejection. He asked Danielle questions. How long before the smell felt real? When did Marcus stop being Marcus? When did he become noise? The agents listened and felt sick. Price slipped. He mentioned clinics, plural. He mentioned consultants, plural. He mentioned success rates, plural. This wasn't one man. It never was. Price bragged. A woman in Arizona, not dead, yet. She's close, he said. That was enough. Agents mobilized. They reached her in time. Barely. She was dehydrated, disoriented, repeating the same phrase. He says I smell like lies. They pulled her offline, pulled her meds, pulled her back. She survived. The next message came colder. You interfered. Danielle didn't deny it. She typed, You said I could choose. A pause, longer than usual. Then, You're evolving. Price made an offer. Protection, resources, purpose. He said, Help me refine this, and no one else dies. That was the trap. That was always the trap. Half the team wanted to pull Danielle out. The other half wanted to go deeper. Price was talking, really talking. You don't interrupt that, unless you're ready for silence. Danielle admitted something to her counselor, quietly. She said the smell was gone, but the voice wasn't. She said sometimes she missed the certainty, the clarity. That scared everyone. Price set a deadline. 30 days, he wrote, to prove you're still mine. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. A man this time. Post-injury, post-divorce. Same forums, same language, same pressure. He bought a gun. The clock started. Agents authorized Danielle to do something unthinkable. To lean in, to validate, to keep him talking, to stop the man from pulling the trigger. It worked. The man lived, but Danielle paid for it. That night, Danielle dissociated. For hours, medical staff intervened, sedated her. The agents realized the truth. You can't step into the loop without it stepping back. In a final message, Price wrote, I don't create monsters. I reveal them. That sentence hit harder than any threat. Metadata, timing, a slip in phrasing. Price wasn't operating alone anymore. He had students, people copying him, improving on him. The task force made the call. They would expose everything, not arrest. Exposure, names, methods, patterns. It would end Project Rebirth and start something worse. Danielle typed one final sentence to Price. You're not the only voice I hear now. The reply came instantly. Good. At midnight, Documents went live. Forums shut down. Accounts vanished. Clinics were raided. And somewhere, a man read the exposé, smiled, and started writing his own version. It didn't roll out. It detonated. Documents hit at midnight. Screenshots, timelines, clinic names, forum archives, message transcripts. People woke up to a new reality, and nobody knew where to look first. Headlines chased shock. Online predator manipulates surgery patients. Woman who killed husband was brainwashed. Nuance disappeared. So did caution. Producers wanted villains. They already had one. Danielle. Within 48 hours, reports spiked. Emergency rooms filled with patients describing phantom smells. Online groups exploded. New accounts popped up. Some supportive. Some cruel. Some eerily familiar. Same language. Different usernames. Buried in the leaked files was a note from a behavioral analyst. Exposure will fragment the method, not erase it. No one read that part. They shared the screenshots instead. The woman saved in Arizona went public. She described the messages. The shame. The certainty. She said one thing that chilled everyone. I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. That was the danger. New platforms. New encryption. New moderation. Different names. Same tone. The community didn't disappear. It migrated. In prison, Danielle watched the coverage. She wasn't a person anymore. She was a headline, a warning, a meme. Some called her a monster. Others called her a victim. Very few called her human. The mailroom noticed it first. Letters shifted tone, from curiosity to admiration to imitation. People wrote about smells, about voices, about partners who deserved it. Danielle stopped reading. The task force fractured. Some said exposure saved lives. Others said it accelerated harm. Budgets froze. Jurisdiction arguments flared. Project Rebirth officially shut down. Unofficially, no one was watching anymore. Alan Price never resurfaced, but his words did. Screenshots circulated, quotes without context. His language became shorthand. You're evolving. You're listening. People used it on each other, like code. A woman in Ohio. Post-procedure. Post-breakup. She didn't shoot anyone. She didn't hurt anyone. She vanished. Left behind a phone. Last message saved in drafts. I finally understand. Danielle's psychiatrist requested reassignment. Off the record, she said, "She understands the system too well now." Danielle wasn't delusional anymore. She was lucid, and that scared people more. A journalist asked for a prison interview. Long form, nuanced, no sound bites. Danielle declined, then reconsidered. Silence hadn't protected anyone. They filmed it. 2 hours. Danielle didn't cry, didn't dramatize. She explained the process, the erosion, the way certainty replaces doubt, the way shame feels like truth. The network approved the cut, then pulled it. Too dangerous. As cameras shut off, Danielle leaned forward and said one sentence. They don't need Alan anymore. That line never aired, but it reached the wrong ears. Within weeks, cases doubled, not violent. Yet, self-harm, paranoia, isolation, people reporting sensations that weren't there. Clinics scrambled, doctors panicked, forums flourished. One agent admitted it, quietly. We didn't stop a killer. We taught a method. Danielle dreamed of Marcus, not dying, standing, silent, looking at her, then fading into static. She woke up knowing something. The system no longer needed a villain. A new account messaged her lawyer. Not Price, someone else. Short, clean, one sentence. Thank you for the blueprint. Danielle stared at the concrete wall and realized the truth. The smell was never the trigger. Meaning was. And once people learned how to take it away, anyone could pull the switch. The proposal sounded impossible. Reverse conditioning, not exposure. not takedowns. Repair. Teach people how to sit with uncertainty again. How to survive shame without needing a villain. How to hear a thought and not obey it. No one wanted to fund it. It didn't make headlines. It didn't promise arrests. It promised patience. They didn't say it outright. They didn't have to. Danielle understood systems now, how belief forms, how it hardens, how it replaces reality. She wasn't a spokesperson. She was a map, and maps are dangerous. Danielle set one rule: no names, no tactics, no stories that could be copied, only process, only repair. If this became content, she was out. They agreed. They lied later. No cameras, no audience, 6 people on a screen, different states, different lives, same sentence. I can't tell what's real anymore. Danielle didn't interrupt, didn't reassure. She waited. Silence did the first bit of work. She taught them something small: how to delay belief, how to say, this might not be true. Not forever, just for 10 minutes. That was enough to break the loop. For some, one man logged off and never came back. They found him 2 days later, alive, hospitalized, but shaken. The program didn't save everyone. It was never going to. Word spread, quietly. A place where certainty softened, where people weren't told what to think, just how to hold thoughts without drowning. Forums noticed, so did predators. Accounts appeared mocking the process, calling it weakness, calling it coping. They used therapy terms like weapons. They said doubt was cowardice, that clarity was power, that was familiar, too familiar. A new figure emerged online. Different name, same cadence, same confidence, same promises. Not Alan Price, someone younger, someone louder. They didn't manipulate from shame. They manipulated from belonging. Price isolated people. This one unified them. Communities, memes, shared rituals. If Price was a scalpel, this was a megaphone. Danielle's lawyer got the call. A deal. Early parole review. Conditions. Disappear. Stop speaking. Let the system stabilize. Stability, they said. Danielle laughed. She'd heard that word before. A clip surfaced. Out of context. Danielle saying, people don't want truth. They want relief. It went viral. The wrong way. She became a villain again. Not violent. Calculated. You're making this harder. You're destabilizing recovery. You're going to cause another Marcus. That one stuck. Danielle wrote to Marcus. Didn't mail it. Didn't need to. She apologized, not for killing him, for believing certainty over connection, for mistaking silence for safety. One participant spoke up. I thought the smell meant decay. It meant fear. That sentence mattered. It reframed everything. Fear doesn't need a target. It needs care. Relapses dropped. ER visits slowed. People stayed offline longer. Not cured, but breathing. The program worked. Quietly, which made it dangerous. Funding pulled. Permissions revoked. Unlicensed intervention, they said. Translation, stop. Danielle refused. A message came through the secure line. Different tone. Professional. Your participation increases risk vectors. This ends now. Danielle stared at the screen and typed back, risk isn't the same as harm. They transferred her. No explanation. Different facility. Different rules. Isolation. No sessions. No contact. They called it protection. Danielle called it erasure. Before the transfer, she recorded a message. Not a manifesto. Not instructions. A reminder. If you're listening, certainty is not relief. Delay the urge. Breathe. They tried to delete it. They missed one copy. Weeks later, in a forum Danielle had never visited, a user posted, I waited 10 minutes. Others replied, I waited 2. The thread exploded, and somewhere, someone realized, you can't unteach breathing. Danielle arrived at the new facility before sunrise. No announcement, no paperwork she could see, just keys, concrete, and silence that felt heavier than chains. This place wasn't meant for rehabilitation. It was meant for containment. Days passed, then weeks. No sessions, no messages, no letters. The smell never came back, but something else did. Memories. Marcus laughing, Marcus cooking, Marcus asking her to stay, not as noise, as truth. During a routine evaluation, the psychiatrist asked, "Do you still hear him?" Danielle shook her head, then paused. "I hear myself now," she said. The psychiatrist didn't write that down. The recording Danielle made before her transfer didn't go viral. It didn't trend. It didn't explode. It spread the slow way, person to person, DM to DM, quiet, like breathing. No names, no villains, no instructions. Just one idea: delay the urge. That was it. That was the antidote. 6 months later, Danielle was called into a room. Different energy, different posture. 2 officials. Not corrections, not medical. They didn't sit down. "You need to understand," one said. "Something you started didn't stop." ER admissions down. Crisis calls shorter. Fewer violent escalations. More people disengaging before damage. Not healed, but alive. Breathing. Choosing not to act. One official finally said it. "If we let this continue, do we lose control?" Danielle looked at him. "You already did," she said quietly. They offered parole review, early release, conditions, disappear, stop talking, stop helping. They framed it as mercy. Danielle framed it as silence. No, not loud, not angry, just firm. She had said yes to the wrong voices before. She wasn't doing that again. That night, Danielle dreamed of Marcus again. This time, he spoke. "You don't have to punish yourself forever," he said. She woke up crying, not from guilt, from relief. Danielle wrote to Marcus's parents, not to explain, not to justify. She wrote, "I don't ask for forgiveness. I only want you to know I'm trying to stop it from happening again." They never replied. She didn't expect them to. Headlines changed, new scandals, new villains. Alan Price became a footnote, a case study, a warning. The method lived longer than the man, but so did the resistance. Online, people kept posting the same thing. No hashtags, no branding, just sentences. I waited. I didn't act. I'm still here. One night, a guard paused outside Danielle's cell. Didn't look at her, just said, "My sister listens to that message," then walked away. Danielle sat down and cried. It wasn't release. It wasn't redemption. It was knowing that something broken didn't have to stay broken. That harm didn't get the final word. The psychiatrist asked one final question. "If you could say one thing to the person you were before the gun," Danielle closed her eyes and said, "You don't need certainty to survive." Somewhere, a woman sits alone, feeling something she can't explain. Shame, fear, noise. She reaches for her phone, then stops, waits. 10 minutes. The urge passes. She breathes. And that's it. That's how it ends. Not with a shot, not with a scream, but with a pause.